Hi, everybody. Pastor Phil here from St. Andrew. Today's Monday of Holy Week, and I just wanted to offer a couple of words about the next verses in Psalm 23. This is, He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Let's just start with He restoreth my soul. First of all, to restore in the Hebrew, as I was kind of digging into the Hebrew text a little bit, there's a couple of ideas there. It means sort of like to turn back to return to seemingly a better time, a better way of life. And so the Lord restores that. Maybe you found ourselves depleted sometimes, and God restores it. I know sometimes when people do furniture work, they'll do restoration work. They'll take an old cabinet, they'll kind of strip down all the old varnish or whatever's on it, take it down to the wood, maybe sand it a little bit, and then, restain it and maybe revarnish it, and you have this restored, this restored thing. It's the same thing, but restored. Well, maybe you and I need that, at this time with this coronavirus business going on and being so separate from each other. Maybe we need that kind of restoration. So, and then he says, He restoreth my soul. Well, soul in Hebrew it comes from the word nephesh. A nephesh is a living being. Nephesh is the result of what happened when God breathes God's breath into the clay that he had formed. That becomes Adam. And when the meeting of this clay and the breath of God, a being is formed, a living being, a nephesh. And soul has a couple of ideas in the Hebrew. A soul is like a living being. It's a life. It's a self. It's what makes you you. It's a person. It's a person that has passion, that has appetite, that has emotion. And God restores our souls. And we need that, don't we, sometimes? I'm wondering, in my early days of studying psychology, I got to work in a psychiatric hospital for a while, and I got to learn about depression a little bit. Now, every human being gets depressed at some time or another. Sometimes we know that, and maybe some listening to this have had deep depression. And one of the things I had noticed early in that experience was if someone is really quite depressed, it's like they have no affect at all. Their voice was kind of on a monotone, and they really had no passion, they had no emotion, they had no life. It's like their soul was kind of shut down. Well, God is the one who restores that soul and brings life and brings emotion. And so that's one of the things we're praying for nowadays, because right now, with us being so separate, being so isolated, can really be a depressing thing. So that's why it's important to keep calling those folks that you know, to keep in touch with them, to let them know that you're thinking of them, that you're praying for them, because we still want to be the church together. And this psalm is telling us that God is the one who restores the soul. And as far as the paths of righteousness, when God leads us in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake, that's kind of a strange language. We don't talk really much like that, for his name's sake. Basically, that means to honor God. And the whole notion of the Hebrew concept of tzedakah, of righteousness, was not so much being holy and pure, but it was how you treated another person. That's what was righteous. That's what was just. How is it that you are treating somebody else? Are you treating them with love and kindness? Are you caring for your neighbor? That is righteousness. It's not so much being squeaky clean and never saying a bad word. Those are fine, but that's not righteousness. Righteousness is how you treat each other. And it's God who leads us in the paths of righteousness. And for his name's sake, that's how we honor God, by being righteous. So, he restores my soul. May God restore us this day. And he also leads us in those paths of righteousness, how we treat each other. And may we continue to treat each other with love and kindness. And so again, as I like to say, May God bless you. May God keep you and walk with the King today and be a blessing.